not for my kids and not in this neighborhood. And all of a sudden, every app and every game and every movie and every YouTube and everything that any of them were doing was buffering or delaying or whatever, and I couldn't get out of the Sprint thing for a year.
Well, maybe it's a good thing, it'll keep them off.
It was not a good thing. So at the end of that year, we went back around, and then I went back onto Verizon, which works in this area. Okay, hello everybody. I do not get a kickback for mentioning Verizon on the air. We are in Talmud class. I am Rabbi Tobin. This is B'nai Shalom. I'm sorry for the glare behind me. I don't know how to adjust that, but I guess I could sit somewhere else next week, but we're going to get moving. We are on Tractate Sanhedrin, chapter 3, page 26b. The last 5 short lines, if you're on the traditional daf, the traditional page. If you're in the Schottenstein, it's 26b2. 26b2, and we've just climbed our way back out of the rabbit hole. We did. It was a class that had to move through a specific amount of material, because the material had a beginning and it had an end, but it had like nothing to do with what came before or what comes after. So we needed to compartmentalize it to one class, which we were successful at. Thank God. So here we are. We're back, and we are going to pick up where it's Amar Rabbi Yehuda Matai. So keep your finger on 26b2, and if you care to go all the way back to the beginning of chapter 3 on 23a, to remind ourselves about what we're studying, we are now actually going all the way back to the original Mishnah. That's what the Gemara here is going to be picking up on, and it's going to be picking up on the Misachek B'Kubiyah. So actually not chapter 3 on 23a, it's the second Mishnah I think that we started on, right? El Psulim Le'edut, and that's on 24b. So on 24b2 in the Schottenstein, there was a Mishnah that said, Ve'elu hana Psulim, HaMisachek b'Kubiyah, HaMalveh b'Ribi'it, Mafrichei Yonim, V'Socher Shvi'it. And these are the ones who are ineligible for testimony: the dice player, the interest lender, the pigeon flyers, and the Shvi'it sellers. Rabbi Shimon said that Batchila hayu korino tanos Shvi'it. Originally it was the gatherers of Shvi'it, but Mishrabu Nasim Chazru Likrotam Sochrei Shvi'it. But when the oppressors or tax collectors increased, they said the only people who were not kosher witnesses. I'm doing just a review of the original Mishnah from this section of the Gemara. That the people who sell Shvi'it are the problem. That's 24b3 now. Bizman she'ein lahen omanut elahu. So this is where we are. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Ematai. Rabbi Yehuda said, why or when are they not kosher witnesses? And we understand that this means the Misachek B'Kubiyah. So Amar Rav Yehuda is talking about the Misachek B'Kubiyah. So he says, when are dice players not kosher witnesses? Bizman she'ein lahem omanut elahu, in a time when they have no other income or trade or kind of legal upstanding economic means of support. Aval yesh lahem omanut shalohu kisherin. And if they have any other means of legitimate support, they are kosher witnesses. That's the piece of the Mishnah. Flip all the way forward to 26b2. That's the piece of the Mishnah that is being quoted. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? All right. So, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Ematai. When are the dice players not kosher? Amar Rabbi Abahu, Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Abahu said in the name of Rabbi Elazar, Halacha ka Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. Well, thanks God, because we've had several pages of Talmud that have presumed that. Remember, there was a debate. Does anyone remember the debate about why these guys are not kosher witnesses?
Is it the rabbis, is that because they didn't study with the right person?
That was part of the rabbit hole we went down, whether or not you can be part of a group of bad people and still count in a minion and so forth. That's long down the road, all the way back to the beginning. There's an immediate conversation about a thing called an asmachta. Does anyone remember the asmachta?
It's supposed to be the proper way of learning. You can't have more than 2 people in the room because then it's, I don't remember exactly.
You're off on another kind of
Another
a
rabbit
topic,
hole.
yeah. All right, the asmachta meant it's not a kosher business dealing. You made the deal based on unknown, right? It was dependent upon somech alav. It was dependent upon variables or factors not under your control or not in agreement. Like I sell you my car for $50,000, providing that the first tulip on the green is red. That's an asmachta. It's not a legal deal because, I may be saying that not to sell the car. You might be saying that because it's such a bad price you would never pay for it, but the odds of it being a red tulip are nothing. Who knows what it's a condition that brings in another level of vagary to the deal. Deals have to be clear.
It's like those Nigerian bankers that want to owe money.
Right. Provided that Bitcoin goes above. So you need to know the details of the deal. You have to agree upon them. But that was the alternative. That meant even if they're professional gamblers, if they're professional gamblers, they're not kosher for that reason. But even if they're not professional gamblers, they're thieves and therefore not kosher for that reason. Here it says halacha k'Rabbi Yehuda, meaning the halacha not only is in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda, but probably for his reason as well. Meaning the asmachta does not invalidate the casual gambler. So the casual gambler is not invalidated if the halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda.
By the casual, they mean that it's not their full-time.
It's not their job. It's
Okay.
not how they support themselves.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
It's a whole nother deal if you are trying to make your living gambling. You do that full-time, but you don't make any money at it.
Just like you don't make any money, then.
You know what? What have
At
you?
least from the-
Rabbi Yehuda would still have you as not a kosher witness. The other point of view, since you never took the money on an asmachta, maybe you're fine. But that's not the halacha. Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so here we go. Halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Rabbi Abahu, Amar Rabbi Elazar. Well, since we just quoted Rabbi Abahu in the name of Rabbi Elazar, let's hear what else we have from Rabbi Abahu in the name of Rabbi Elazar. Kulan srichin hachraza b'veit din. This is a very interesting principle. They all require a proclamation in court. Hachraza is a public formal proclamation that they have been declared not kosher as a witness. Hachraza. It's a public proclamation in court. It doesn't mean your mother-in-law came up to you and said, "You no good gambler, you're a loafer, and you'll never ever earn an honest penny." That might be a proclamation, and it might be the exact same topic and fact set, but it's not legally binding. If the court makes that proclamation, now this person is known and declared and settled to be a not kosher witness for this reason. So Rabbi Abahu evidently is saying all of these people who are not kosher witnesses are kosher until they're proclaimed not to be, which is weird. It would seem to undermine the entire purpose of creating categories.
So, well, an example of the mother-in-law, so that could be seen as a threat, as a looking to the future, but it's not a guarantee of what's going to be happening. It's just an observation. So what would that fit?
So I've got 50 people, in the shul at Kiddush telling me that Ron, I'm just using Ron, this doesn't apply to him,
You have no idea what I'm talking
but let's say I had 50 people at the Kiddush come up to me and say, "Ron is a no-good loafing gambler," right? And I've got Ron signed up for a ketubah signing on Sunday for someone in the congregation. He's going to be my witness. Or he signs the gittin after minyan sometimes with Rabbi Asakov. He'll sign the appointing of an agent.
All those are real good.
Right, so Ron's status as an aide is important, people's marital lives. I mean, if Ron's not a good aide, so the agent was not properly appointed, and then the get, which was not appointed to be delivered, was delivered, it's not a kosher get, and the person on the basis of the non-kosher get thinks they're divorced and they go and they sleep with somebody, they've committed adultery. And if you commit adultery, the halacha is you are forced to divorce from your current spouse, and you may never marry the person you slept with, which is enormously important, right?
Comes back like the fruit of the poisonous tree in legal law here.
Yeah, so when you have a witness for something like this, they've got to be good. So they created categories of people, but this idea is maybe the categories aren't effective unless the person has been proclaimed not kosher.
Well, for me, the difference was reporting on a misbehavior, whatever category it was that would make them not kosher, as opposed to predicting in the future what they think might happen. That's what I was looking at.
I got you. You're only going to make someone pasul based on some known behavior.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
So the
make
behavior is either you're a shepherd, that's a behavior that we think makes you an automatic thief, or the behavior is you're a dice player, or, either the things in the Mishnah or the things the rabbis added.
But if you were not proclaimed to be one and you signed these, it was after, is it?
We're getting there.
Is it right? Oh,
We're getting there. So now that Abahu has said all of these things require proclamation in a court, that opens Pandora's box. And we're going to deal with that a little bit here, okay? So now, Roe pliga bar Rav Acha v'Ravina, considering the category the rabbis added of the Roe Bakar, right, the herder, Rav Acha and Ravina dispute about whether that person needs hachrazah or not. In other words, is he automatically not a kosher witness, or does he need to be proclaimed formally in court to not be? Okay, so Chad amar ba'ai hachrazah, v'chad amar la ba'ai hachrazah. One says he needs it to be invalidated. The other says he does not need it to be invalidated. Notice logic is going to start to twist your heads a little bit, because in Aramaic and Hebrew you can have multiple negatives. Not means is. Not means not. Okay? So if it's not, it is. If it's not, then it's not.
Right.
Okay? It's just like doing absolute value in 7th grade math. Negative is a positive, a negative is a negative. Okay? So that's, you got to follow that here, otherwise the next couple lines don't make sense. So, one person says he needs a hachrazah to be invalidated. The other person says he does not need a hachrazah to be invalidated. So, if he does not have a hachrazah, by the second point of view, he is invalidated. If he does have a hachrazah, in the first view, he is invalidated. Okay, so there's different points of view about what you need to be invalidated. So, bishlema lama'an damar la ba'ai hachrazah. Okay, it's fine for the person who says he does not require a proclamation to be invalidated. Hainu de'amar Rav Yehuda amar Rav, because Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, stam ro'eh pasul. Remember we saw that. The simple category of ro'eh makes you pasul. That is the same thing as saying there's no hachrazah. So now we've got, what are we doing? Where are we on our logic tree? We said we're going all the way back to the Mishnah to Rav Yehuda, plus all the other people who have been invalidated, maybe. Now, and what's the Abahu? So Abahu says hachrazah. Under Abahu, you have an argument of Acha and Ravina, right? So Acha and Ravina. We don't know who is who, but one of these two says the ro'eh, the shepherd, needs hachrazah, and the other says the shepherd doesn't need hachrazah, to be invalid. Okay? So Yehuda says people are invalid. Abahu says only if there's hachrazah. Acha and Ravina, we don't know which. One seems to agree with Abahu, needs hachrazah. The other says doesn't need hachrazah. Okay, so
I just got lost, excuse me, what, hachrazah is what?
hachrazah is a proclamation in the court that you are in the category that makes you not a kosher witness.
Okay,
I declare in the court, you are not a kosher witness. That's hachrazah. And I proclaim why.
It's one thing to say this privately in the midst of the court, but you're saying this in front of the town,
With witnesses and the whole bit.
now the guy's disgraced.
Well, for them to make this proclamation, presumably there are witnesses that have been brought to determine that he is in fact in this possible category. So what's the real case? The real case is you and I are fighting over a document that obligates me to pay you a lot of money. Okay, the document has witnesses on it. One of them's a shepherd. I'm going to bring witnesses that one of your witnesses is a shepherd. The court is going to do a sidebar, they're going to investigate that, and they're going to rule on that motion to invalidate your witness on the basis of him being a shepherd. The court will rule, positive or negative, on that. That's public.
But just to bring it up to date, I mean, this would be like analogous, in a case in the New York State Court, where they have to disqualify a juror. It's done publicly, the judge says it from the bench,
Yeah.
and, you know, he might not be happy, but he goes home and to the disapproval of his wife, I think.
Right. I don't watch nighttime dramas on television, but I was walking through a room the other day when there was a scene on, and there was a judge who was hostile to the people who were trying to get the judge off the case, and they brought, and they did some illegal shenanigans and hacked into her credit cards or whatever, and they found out that she had signed the subpoena at a wine bar, which gave the indication she may have had alcohol in her when she signed the subpoena, and they raised this as an ethical violation in her court, and she declared herself unfit because no judge should be underneath a cloud of any level of whatever, and right. So this is what happens in court sometimes. When you try and get somebody off a case, you're going to cast aspersions on them. Right? You're going to declare that something bad happens. There's not a good smell here. That should be thrown out. And people do it to each other all the time. And this is going, every system of jurisprudence since the history of mankind. If you can't win on the merits, attack the witness. Right? It's just an old go-to plan. And if you can't win on the merits and you can't smear the witness, you call it a kangaroo court, right? And you say the whole thing's not valid, right? And if that doesn't work, then you take it to the mob, right? That's the go-to plan. That's what people do when they don't want to face truth, right? I did this. I actually signed a document with you, and I had this, and I'm supposed to pay you, and that's what I should be doing. But the courts can't distinguish between that person and this person because you're not allowed to say, I know you to be believable, and therefore I'm going to believe you, because that's bias. Right? You're not allowed to, al takir panim b'mishpat, the Torah says, you can't recognize faces in a court of law. Okay, so here we go. What's going on? So far we've gotten like 3 sentences in. One says you need chachrazah. This is Ava and Ravina. One says you don't. It's okay for the person who says that you don't need a proclamation because this same guy, Rav Yehuda, says stam ro'eh, a stam shepherd, is not kosher. I should spell kosher with a K, right? A stam shepherd is not kosher. Okay? So Rabbi Yehuda, this guy, has a principle that we've learned elsewhere already that says a ro'eh is not kosher. That sounds like we don't need a hachrazah in the court to declare him not kosher. Stam ro'eh is not kosher. Simple. Now, what about the other guy? The other guy can't be dumb. And this is what Talmud does. It's got opposing points of view, but it tells you why each person is not stupid. Right? Each person has a reason they're making their argument. They can't just disagree with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is a Tana. These guys are Amoraim. They can't disagree with a Tana. They're not allowed to, right? Higher level of authority from an earlier age. So it's okay for the Amora who says you don't need hachrazah because Rabbi Yehuda says stam roeh is pasul. But what about the other guy? Right? What about the other guy? Ella lamanda mar by hachrazah hamai stam roeh pasul. So what would the other guy, the guy who holds that he requires hachrazah, how would he interpret Rabbi Yehuda's maxim that all shepherds are not kosher?
What's prejudice?
But you can't just say prejudice. Rabbi Yehuda is not prejudiced. Rabbi Yehuda is an authoritative Tana, and you're an Amora, and you've just articulated a point of view that seems to contradict Rabbi Yehuda. So how are you going to interpret Rabbi Yehuda's teaching, stam roeh pasul, in a way that doesn't apply? Right? You can't just say it's not valid, because he's a Tana. Whatever a Tana says is valid.
Okay, even if you disagree, you have to do the party line.
That's why we are also not Amoraim. Right? So the Amoraim are very smart at interpreting and reinterpreting the Tanaim without directly contradicting them.
So in today's term, shepherds are victims of society because they can't be witnessed, right?
Right. There's an inherent societal prejudice against shepherds that needs, there will be a movement of for the liberation of the shepherds.
Liberation of the shepherds.
Okay. All right. Now, the answer is a horrible answer, if I do say so myself, but the Gemara is going to accept it and move on. Be stama machrizin aleya. That regarding the stam, the simple case of the shepherd, we've already done a hachrazah on all of them. In general, they've all had proclamation done. Well, it doesn't really answer the question, because the whole point of this guy, about who's saying you need hachrazah, seems to be that the category is not effective. You need hachrazah. The answer is, we've declared the category to be effective, to invalidate them, which is ignoring Abahu's comment. Right? It just ignores it. So to say, what about the guy who says that you need a hachrazah, the answer can't be, it's like everyone already has a hachrazah, because it ignores the flow of the argument. But it doesn't matter, that's the end of that, and we move on. Hahi matana dahavid chatima aleya trei gazlanim. So I love it when we do this, new case. The Gemara likes to to show off. The Gemara likes to not give a straightforward case. The Gemara likes to give multiple variables in one case, so that you can learn as many things as possible about the one case at one time. So, what is the case? The case is a gift document with two thieves as the witnesses. So, what do we know about the document? What is a gift document? The document is not the gift. The gift is named in the document, but nobody's paying for it. So I have a document that gives you my fully loaded Lexus. And it's signed by two thieves. Is it a kosher document? Can you come and take my Lexus?
I would think it would be kosher.
You would think what?
It would not be kosher by.
It would not be kosher because
Because of the two thieves.
the witnesses are thieves. I would think the witnesses are not kosher. So, pshita, this should be a very straightforward case.
Except. I'm waiting for that.
Savar Rav Papa Bar Shmuel Achshure. So Rav Papa Bar Shmuel comes in. So Papa Bar Shmuel says, how do you do this? Thumbs up? Okay, I guess I have to give it a fingernail or something for people to know what it is. That looks horrible. All right, so he says he comes in and says it's kosher. Rav Papa Bar Shmuel says it's kosher. Why? De ha lo achrazrinan alayhu. We never did a hachrazah against these two guys. We never did the proclamation in court against them.
Okay.
So therefore, it should be a kosher
So
document.
there should be, if they haven't had that document against them.
Amar le Rava comes in, and he says to him, thumbs down. He says, are you kidding? Nihi deva'in and hachrazah begazlanin de Rabbanan. Granted, we require proclamation regarding a robber by rabbinic standards. De gazlan de oraita mi ba'in and hachrazah. And he says, a rabbinic thief versus a Torah thief. What is the difference between a rabbinic thief and a Torah thief? Rabbinic thief needs hachrazah, but a Torah thief does not need hachrazah. If you don't need hachrazah, if you need hachrazah, you're kosher until that has happened. If you don't need hachrazah, you're never kosher. Because the hachrazah is a proclamation that invalidates you. Okay, so this is Rava. Rava's a big gun. All right? So what's the difference between a rabbinic thief and a Torah thief?
A Torah thief doesn't need a proclamation.
No, I mean, what's the case? What makes somebody a rabbinic thief? What makes somebody a Torah thief? It's not that you stole a rabbi or a Torah.
The rabbi seems to have a higher standard than the Torah, it seems.
Close?
Maybe there's doubt, in terms of the definition of a thief.
Okay, so there's different kinds of theft. There's theft that is in the Torah, prohibited by the Torah. Then there's stuff that the rabbis said is not allowed. Remember, at the beginning, you could go up and put your money on the counter and take the stuff without talking to the owner of the market. But then when they saw a lot of people were doing it, the rabbis outlawed it. So that's not a Torah theft, but it's forbidden by the rabbis as if it were theft. Okay? So somebody who does that is still kosher until the rabbis do a proclamation in the court against him.
So-
Presumably.
So shepherds are rabbinical thieves and not Torah
So
thieves.
Rabbi Yehuda says, Stam roe pasul. They're just not kosher. That seems to mean that a shepherd is in this category. And you're thinking like the Talmud, because now we would argue which category is a roe. So is Rabbi Yehuda saying that Stam roe is pasul mida rabbanan, but it would need hachrazah? Like that's what they're going to try and play with. Okay.
I mean, so many of our leaders have been shepherds.
Oh yeah, David was a shepherd, right?
So,
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God cannot testify against me.
so the Torah would not consider a shepherd as a bad person. Then I would think it's Torah does not.
Would the Torah call a shepherd a rasha when so many of our Nevi'im and so forth have been shepherds?
So,
Joseph tells his brothers to Pharaoh, tell Pharaoh you're all shepherds. Right? Okay, so let's see how the flow here goes. Nihi deva'in hachrazah begazlan de Rabbanan. We agree that hachrazah is required in these cases, rabbinic theft, but biblical theft, how could anybody hold that point of view? In a biblical theft, you know the person is not kosher because he's breaking a Torah law. Okay? And then we get a mnemonic. All right? And why do we get a mnemonic? Because, did we have Rav Nachman yet? Nope, he's coming now. Okay? Siman devar v'arayot ganav. So we're going to now learn a siman. So, where are we? He's at Hachrazah. And the Gemara is now going to do gift document. About which it's going to ask thief. What's a thief? Okay? The answer to that thief is going to come from Rav Nachman. But it's going to come indirectly. Rav Nachman has a well-known trio of teachings. Devar, Arayot, Ganav. Something called a Devar, which is a thing. Arayot is forbidden sexual relationships, which are bad things, and Ganav is a thief, which is a bad thing. When you talk about any one of those three, the Gemara immediately brings all three. That's what it does. So we have a siman of memory, which is going to be 1, 2, 3. And it's davar, arayot, and ganav. This came up because the thief, ganav, is attached to the gift document, which is responding to the Abahu question about hachrazah. Okay? So we're going to get to this, but to get to this, we have to go through the whole Rabbi Nachman tradition. Yeah.
Would this cover things like coveting?
No.
It's an actual deed, it's not just a thought.
This is not a thought.
Okay.
This is actions. Okay? A mnemonic, that's a fancy English word which means a memory device. Like I want to,
So each letter,
so I'm trying to remember Willie's name, and he reminds me of a silly person. And so in my mind, every time I see him, I think to myself, silly Willie. I've got his name. I have
Mnemonic for rainbow colors, where'd you do?
Roy G. Biv. Kings play chess on fine glass surfaces. Things that's the kingdom, phylum, strata, and all that in the animal in nomenclature of biology.
Homes of the Great Lakes.
Yeah, right. So something about take oats away. Some old horses, something, take oats away. That's for sine, cosine, and tangent. Opposite and hypotenuse and all that, right?
God, you're bringing back my.
Right? Learning something that's bigger than the thing you're trying to learn, because it's the only way to remember the thing you're trying to learn.
yeah, so is it the letters Dow and Vav Resh?
No, it's actually, in this case, I don't know why.
It's the word, what is Devar?
A devar,
It's a thing, what is Devar?
right.
The words mean.
The words are actually davar, a thing. Arayot means forbidden sexual relationships, and ganav means thief. Why is it chipchik in there? Why does it look like it's an abbreviation? I have no idea. Right? Siman should not be davar arayot ganav with the little chipchiks in it, but it is. So I don't know. Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman. Here we go. Ochle davar acher psulin le'edut. People who eat another thing. Now, don't read the commentary. Stop.
That's cheating?
Well, it's not only cheating, it's a rabbit hole.
I was just showing for the mnemonic that's explained in the footnote.
Oh, okay, that's fine. All right. The davar is a thing. We have a teaching for Rav Nachman that if you're ochel davar acher, you're pasul le'edut. Don't read the embedded commentary in the translation. Only read the bold words. Don't read the non-bold words. Because the non-bold words are Rashi and the Tosafot's interpretation of this line, which the Art Scroll faithfully follows at all times. They bring in a completely different topic to bear here. They may be right, but I want to struggle with the original words. The original words are, a guy who eats a different thing is not a kosher witness.
What's the different thing?
Okay, so Rashi's going to say, the Devar Acher is tzedakah from a non-Jew, given to you as a Jew, which is an embarrassment, and it's just wrong for you to take. Now, historically, in our society, I don't see how that could possibly apply. In Rashi's medieval society, if the feudal lord comes throwing pennies on the ground to the starving Jews, that might be an embarrassment. They have to live off of the goyish tzedakah. Not only because it's not ours, but because what's their view of that society? How did that man get that money?
Probably from slave labor.
Through theft. Stealing everybody's crops, extorting taxes, attacking people with his knights, pillaging, right? The nobleman in France with the money to give to the starving Jew is presumed not to be a good person. Their money is presumed to be tainted. Living off that money is presumed to be wrong because you're buying into the system of corruption. That's Rashi's view. That's how he's interpreting this passage.
Can't take that.
Nothing to do with PAC money. I hear what you're saying. Okay. So, stop that.
This guy could take one from the Red Cross.
Look, that's what Rashi says. That's why I don't want to do this. I think when I look at the words, I see ochel devar acher, a person who eats a different thing. I'm going to go ahead and call that eating. I'm going to say it's a person who's eating something that is a different thing. So now I need to know, because it's obviously bad whatever he's doing. He's obviously doing something wrong. How bad is it? Is he eating pork, knowing it's pork? Or is he just going through, the bus stop cafeteria line, and he says, give me some of that red gloop. Give me some of that adoma domazeh. Right? I have no idea what it is. Right? And I don't care. So which person am I? From the rabbi's point of view, they're both bad. If you're eating stuff and you have no idea what it is, and I'm not talking about like a non-hechshered bagel or something. You're making a choice, you're thinking it's a bagel. I'm talking about the guy who's literally looking at the lumpy thing in the pot and saying, yeah, I'll eat that. Okay? No idea. Or the person who sees that it's pig, it's labeled pig, and they're eating it. It's one of those two things. So he's an ochel devar acher. Forget the whole non-Jewish tzedakah thing. You don't need it to understand the sugya. Okay? We'll just move on. The guy's doing something along those lines. Now, why does Rashi bring tzedakah? Because there's this language of supporting yourself. So what's the case? This has to do with someone who does it in public, but in private, no. So from Rashi's point of view, the person who is pasul, who is not kosher for his testimony, is the person who in public is living off the tzedakah of the non-Jewish corrupt feudal lord. And in my interpretation, it's a person who in public is eating this highly likely to be treif. Right? One of those two. Why does it make a difference, public-private? Let's see. Uvarhesia nami lo amran ela def sharle. And even for the public person, we only say this regarding him. What are we saying about him? That he's not a kosher witness. So the person who does this in public, we only say that he's not a kosher witness in the situation that le'it zone betzina de'afsharle, where it's possible for him le'it zone betzina, to support himself with mazon, food, in private. So if you're in public and you're eating this massively, evidently treif thing, or you're in public and you're taking the tzedakah of corruption to live off of, and you have food or money at home, now you're a Rasha. Now you're not a good person. Now you're somebody, there's no force on you. You're doing this of your own volition. You're not a kosher witness. Right? V'ka mivaze nafshe b'varhesia, he degrades himself in public. Aval lo efshar le chiyutahu. But if it's not possible for him to support himself privately, this is his life. Chiyutahu. This is the only way for him to survive. Two totally different scenarios. So it's interesting they make public-private, not because we're endorsing democracy, but quite the opposite. The person who does this in public doesn't have to, and we don't like the smell of it, we don't like the look of it, you're not a kosher witness. The person who does this in public out of need, we have rachmanis on that person. They're forced to. There's no reason to believe they're not a good person. There's no reason to believe they're not going to pay attention to or act according to Torah law when they can. It's their life they're saving, and they're still a kosher witness. Everyone get it?
That makes sense.
Okay. So that's the first Rav Nachman. Okay, that's davar. Check. Second Rav Nachman is going to be the sexual stuff. Amar Rav Nachman, hachashud al arayot kasher la'edut. Somebody who is suspected of forbidden sexual behavior is a kosher witness. The key word is chashud, suspected. Right? The guy's in court. He walks in holding hands with his mistress. I see them around town a lot. They enter dance competitions. Right? It's not his wife. They seem awfully friendly. And the rumor is that, but I don't have Adim and I don't have proof. He's a kosher witness. Okay? That's according to Rav Nachman. But Amar Rav Sheshet, who you've met before, he says, Ane Mari, speaking to Rav Nachman. Rav Sheshet goes, oh yeah? Tell me, master. Tell me, O great teacher. Arba'in bechitfei v'chasher, 40 lashes on his shoulders and he's kosher? And there's no way you could understand that unless you go off where this originates, the argument goes like this. You actually have the ability, if there is like universal rumor about somebody, to punish them with flogging. So I got 50 people at the Kiddush telling me about Ron and this lady down the street. Ron gets publicly flogged. If I had proof, what would happen? Ron gets executed. Right?
Oh, I thought he had to divorce his wife.
Well, it depends who's doing what, right? But the truth, you can have a motumat, right? So you can have, it depends on which sexual thing we're talking about too, right? There's stuff that results in divorce, there's stuff that results in execution. So it's an execution thing, there's rumors all over town, and I'm going to take Ron out and I'm going to flog him. Right? He gets 40 lashes minus 1 at the stake in front of everybody. We have the power to do that without proof, based on just widespread rumor. So if we have the ability on widespread rumor to do that to a guy, why are you accepting his testimony in court? That's what Rav Sheshet says. Okay, so now we might have to respond to that. Amar Rava comes in, and he says, Umoda Rav Nachman la'inyan edut isha shu pasul. So he comes in and he says, yes, regarding testimony about a woman, he's not kosher because he's a philanderer doing bad things with women. But maybe he's still believable about my gift document for my fully loaded Lexus. Okay? So maybe he's just not believable about women. He's got a weak spot in his character. This is where he lies. This is where he philanders. But that doesn't mean he doesn't know what a gift document is in a reliable manner. Stop it. You keep bringing in all these very troublesome modern analogies. All right, fair enough. All right. Amar Ravina, the Itema Rav Papa, and there's some who say Ravina or Rav Papa. He says, La Amran Ella La Apuka, Aval La Ayola Late Lan Ba. So here's how the logic goes. Category 2 is Rav Nachman teaching about the Arayot person. And he says the Arayot person is kosher. There's an objection raised, but we can whip him. How can he be kosher? The answer is, he's only not kosher about sexual testimony regarding women. And then that gets qualified as, but actually, we only don't believe him when he's talking about a woman not being married, having left her husband. That's when we don't believe him. But if he's talking about testifying that a woman is in fact a married woman, we do believe him. Why? What are we getting into his head? What's going on? This guy is not believable regarding women because his Yetzer Hara gets in the way of his ethics on that one topic. So let's go with that. He's in court and he's testifying that this woman has left her husband and is duly divorced. What does that do? That places her in the category of his desire. And it's the category of desire that makes him not a credible witness. So we don't believe him if he's testifying about women who are free from their marriages. But if he's testifying the woman is married, he has nothing to gain from it as far as his Yetzer Hara, so we presume he's telling the truth. You go with that? Everyone with me? Everyone think that's good logic or bad logic?
Bad logic.
Bad logic.
It's bad logic, and I think you know why. Pshita, this is obvious, it says. Why? That you can't make, when you say something that's that obvious, it's not a good argument. You don't need the ruling or the case to prove something if it were that obvious. So there's going to say, Amahud Tema, so the person who says it's not Pshita, what's he going to say? Somebody's going to respond and he's going to say, well, maybe he's not believable even when he's putting a woman back in the marriage. Why? Ha'adifale. Because those are preferable to him. Which are preferable to him? Married women. He likes married women. Maybe he's not believable about making a woman married. Maybe that's what he likes.
They're less likely to say anything about it.
No, it's much more.
Leah's safe.
What's that?
They're safer liaisons.
Everyone's saying they're safer. That's not what's going on here. He likes the forbidden fruit. Dichtiv, mein gnuvim yimtaku. And they quote this beautiful verse that says, stolen waters are sweet. Right? So it's the danger of it. It's the forbiddenness of it. That is what's driving him. And that's when he's not believable. So perhaps this guy, Arayot, is completely not a kosher witness. So what's interesting here is that the Rav Nachman Davar case left the person not a kosher witness. But the Rav Nachman Arayot case, Rav Nachman is the one who says he is a kosher witness, but the commentary on him declares the person not kosher.
So he's kosher as long as it doesn't involve women.
Correct. He could be on this shtar matana at the top left. Right? Okay. Third. Now we've done that. That was fun. Amar Rav Nachman. Third Rav Nachman, and now we're getting to our case of the Ganav.
Oh, your car, except it's not a Lexus.
I had a fully loaded Lexus. I mistakenly gave it away in a shtar. Not true. Amar Rav Nachman. Ganav Nisan. He stole a Nissan. No. Ganav Nisan v'Ganav Tishrei lo shmei Ganav. So according to Rav Nachman, let's get rid of these guys. Okay. We've done Rav Nachman 1 and 2. Rav Nachman 3 is going to say that a Nisan and or Tishrei thief is what? Is not a thief.
And why are those 2 months particularly?
Exactly. So, background, Nisan and Tishrei are harvest months. Nisan is the beginning of the barley harvest, big harvest around Pesach and so forth, and the fall harvest of Tishrei is grapes and olives, tree-borne fruit. These are the 2 most important kind of agricultural times. Large workforce is employed, workers on the land. Tenant farmers have to pay what they owe the owner of the land. There's a widespread system in the ancient world of people renting the land like a sharecropper, and a certain amount of that produce they keep, a certain amount of the produce they give to the owner of the land. It's a sharecropper, right? Tenant farmers. And then you have people who are simply like farm workers or migrant workers, people who are getting paid to pick. Those are 2 different categories. Somebody who lives on the land legitimately, some of the produce is theirs, and then there's the people who just get paid to pick. Pay to pick people are allowed to snack on ripe fruit. So if you're picking apples, you get to eat an apple. You get to have apples for lunch and apples for dinner. It's okay. You can't put them in a bushel and take them home for the kids. That's theft. The not ripe apple, you are not allowed to eat. That's theft. So 1 green apple is theft. A bushel of red apples is theft. Okay? And all the analogies and all the other fruits and vegetables that you can think of. All right? So that's necessary background for this. Rav Nachman says, Ganav Nisan v'Ganav Tishrei lo shmei Ganav. So the thief in the harvest of Nisan, or the thief in the harvest of Tishrei, is not a thief. For our purposes, he's still a kosher witness. That's what's applicable to our sugya, to our general topic in the Gemara. That's why it's here. Hani mila ba'arisa, and this ruling is only regarding the sharecropper. V'devar mu'at, who takes a small amount. U'v'devar she'nigmara malachto, and something that is completely ripened. The literal language is, its malacha, its active changing creation has come to a close. Nigmara malachto. Okay, that's the same word, by the way, as Shabbat malacha, the active creation. All right. The Gemara is now going to give you a story. Ikari de Rav Zvid. Once happened that the farm workers of Rav Zvid, Chad ganav kaba di sa'are ufasle, one stole a kav of barley, and Rav Zvid disqualified him as a thief, not a kosher witness anymore. The Chad ganav kibura de ahine ufasle, and the other stole a cluster of dates, and Rav Zvid disqualified him as well. So we have the person who in Nisan is stealing barley, and we have the person in Tishrei who's stealing dates. A kav is not a large amount. A kav is as far as volume, it's about the size of a volleyball. Okay, a kav is 2.5 pints, something like that. So it's about this big. Okay, so somebody stole this much, and he made them not kosher as thieves. What do we learn from this? Well, they were farm workers. Farm workers are not allowed to take anything, right, bigger than what they're just going to eat. So it's too much for them to just snack, but it's still a small amount. A sharecropper, on the other hand, would be welcome to take that amount. They have a right to that amount and more. So what we learn from Rav Zvid's story is that a farm worker who takes more than the handful in Nisan and Tishrei is in fact not a kosher witness anymore. They are a thief. All right, that's the purpose. We didn't really want to learn about them, but since that's the ruling for them, we learn that for a sharecropper, they would not be a thief, and that's what Rav Nachman was teaching when he says that thieves in Tishrei and Nisan are not thieves.
Wasn't there a tradition in Jewish law? Then you could, what was it,
Tithing.
glean?
The poor are allowed to come through after everybody is harvested and take anything that hit the ground.
The ground.
It's all theirs, right? That's a totally different case. Okay. The Gemara discusses another individual who remains ineligible because he's presumed to rationalize his deed. Okay, so where does rationalization come in? If I am a farm worker, I know I can't bring this. I'm not allowed. If I'm a sharecropper, I may take too much, thinking it's permitted to me. And so I'm not really motivating myself to be a thief. I'm not trying to be a thief. And so Rav Nachman allowed me to be a kosher witness, not because I didn't do it. I did take too much, but I thought it was permitted to me. Like, I know that I'm sharecropping, and I'm allowed to harvest for myself. Maybe I took too much. So for Rav Nachman, the sharecropper is a kosher witness because he's really not trying to be bad. He's thinking to himself that what he's doing is permitted. So it's like the guy who walks up to the stall in the market, puts his money down and takes the thing. He's not thinking he's going to be bad. Remember, that person was originally a kosher witness because money is not corrupting him, right? The tenant farmer is not being corrupted by the system. He's just wrong. So he would still be punished for the theft, but his testimony is kosher. He's a believable guy. All of us would get punished if we do something wrong. I did something wrong. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I have to pay a fine for that. I'm going to turn myself into the police, write a report, give an affidavit. This is what I did. Here's the punishment for it. I'm going to do that punishment, pay the extra fifth, take a sacrifice, do my tshuva on Yom Kippur, and I'm off and running. We're not afraid of being punished if we're good people, right? If we're bad people, we're not even believable. Right? So that's how they're distinguishing. Okay, so now we're going to get another case. Hanhu, by the way, that Gemara is not tight. Like the conclusions that I just drew are implied conclusions. The Gemara doesn't do it. It doesn't flesh it out. You kind of have to figure out what's going on based on the context, and that's why it's there. Okay, moving on. Other people who rationalize and therefore might be believable in court. Hanhu kaburai de kabur nafsha biyom tov rishon shalatzeret. I remember these guys. Grave diggers who bury someone on the first day of Shavuot. Mitinhu Rav Papa ufaslinhu leidu. Rav Papa excommunicated them and disqualified them from testimony. So if you excommunicate them, they're like outside of the Torah law community. And if you say you're not a kosher witness, you're still in the Torah community, but you're not believable in court. So what are these guys doing? Grandma dies, and they bury her. Why are they burying grandma?
It's a mitzvah.
It's a mitzvah. Right? You have to you're commanded, you have to bury your dead. You can't leave grandma lying around. You love grandma. Grandma is a vessel of divinity. She's created in the image of God. She has infinite value. You have to treat her with love and respect. You have to place her in the ground as soon as possible. Well, as soon as possible is the first day of Yom Tov. So I've got a Torah law in burying her, first day of Yom Tov. That's forbidden, by the way. Yom Tov is also a Torah law. They say Yom Tov Rishon, first day, because on second day of Yom Tov, except for Rosh Hashanah, you're actually allowed to bury. You could do burials on the second day of Yom Tov, second day of Passover, eighth day of Passover, second day of Sukkot, second day of Shmini Atzeret, known as Simchas Torah, second day of Shavuot. All those days are only observed because of rabbinical decree. The rabbis created Yom Tov Sheni, the second day of Yom Tov, because we live in exile so far away from the land, and we want to make sure that there's no moment of holiness that we're not observing. So our 24 hours is kind of overlapping theirs unevenly, so we create a 48-hour system to make sure that we're always observing during the land of Israel Yom Tov. In the land of Israel, you only have one day of Yom Tov, even today. So your second day Yom Tov, you can bury, because it's a Torah law to bury, but it's a rabbinic law not to dig a hole.
So which is the higher ethic?
The Torah law, always,
That's what I thought.
right? So that's the case. But in this case, these guys are burying on the first day, right? So what are they thinking to themselves? V'achshorei Rav Huna b'rei de Rav Yoshua. Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yoshua, then reinstated them as kosher. He overruled Rav Papa, and he made them kosher. Amalei Rav Papa. Rav Papa registers a formal complaint and says to him, V'harisha'ininu. They're risha'im, they're bad people. They're Shabbos breakers. What are you doing? How can you possibly reinstate them? So Rav Huna, the son of Rabbi Yeshua, responds, Savrei mitzvah kavdei. They're thinking that they're doing a mitzvah. You can't rule them out. They're not doing anything bad in their minds. They're not trying to break the Torah. They think they're doing a mitzvah. They're burying grandma. Right? They think they're commanded. They have to do this. So on that basis, I'm not going to disqualify them.
Is it that they're not that smart, maybe?
The rabbis felt that way about everybody.
They're the only smart ones in the room.
Yeah. V'haka shamitina laho. But Rav Papa says, wait, you can't declare them kosher, because I did two things. I excommunicated them, and then I declared them not kosher as well. You can't go back and declare them not kosher, because they're still excommunicated. I mean, you can't make them kosher. You can make them kosher if you want, I guess, but they're excommunicated. Once they're excommunicated, they can't come in the community, they can't come into court, they can't give they're excommunicated. So how can you say they're kosher when I've excommunicated them? Savra kapara ka'av delan rabbana. They may have reasoned to themselves that the rabbis have achieved an atonement for us. So they're going to think that your excommunication was actually an atonement for their sin. How does that work? Because grandma's been buried. They did this thing. So they buried grandma on Yom Tov. Rav Papa excommunicated them and declared them not kosher witnesses. The other rabbi comes in and declares them kosher all over again, and they're going to think, awesome, we're good to go. What are they thinking about the excommunication?
That doesn't count anymore?
It was their temporary punishment.
It was a punishment. It was a kapara. It was an atonement. They did something and they were punished with this cutting off. But now they're kosher witnesses again, everything's fine. So they're going to think that that made up for it. Maybe they'll even continue to live in excommunication and sign documents as kosher witnesses in excommunication. Maybe they think they can do that. Maybe they think that that was just a price they had to pay for the mistake they made, and now they're good. Is that good logic or bad logic? Do people rationalize? Do people talk themselves into, I'm a good person when I'm doing something bad? Does that make them a liar?
No.
Self-deceiver maybe.
Self-deceiver, right? Right? In other words, it's a gray zone. And in this case, the whole gray zone was created by them trying to be sincere and good and honest and observant, and I'm going to let it happen. And Rav Papa says, how can you? End of topic. And end of class. So next we're going to go to the Yitzmar, and we're going to go from there. So we're going to be picking up the very last word of 26b. I'm going to start on 26.7. 27a. All right, good. And we're on next week.